Welcome back. Today we're going to be continuing simplifying algebraic expressions. We're going to be doing that by adding to our repertoire of properties and talking about the distributive property. So let's go ahead and get started right now. So here we are at example A. And example A has 3 outside the parentheses, 2n minus 5 inside the parentheses. So this expression means that we have 3 groups of 2n minus 5. So we have inside the parentheses 3 groups of 2n minus 5. So now, knowing that we have 3 groups, we're going to break that out into n's and constants. And since I know I have 3 groups of that, I'm going to have 3 2n's, and I'm going to have 3 negative 5's. So 2n plus 2n plus 2n gives me 6n, and negative 5 and negative 5 and negative 5 gives me negative 15. So just like last time we were talking about combining like terms, now we've combined our like terms, and we end up with 6n minus 15. So notice that I had 3 groups of each thing inside the parentheses. So I had 3 groups of 2n, and I had 3 groups of negative 5, and then I combined my like terms like I know how to combine my like terms, and that gave me 6n minus 15. Let's take a look at example B. So in example B, we have 5 outside the parentheses, n plus 3. So this expression means that we have 5 groups of n plus 3. So anytime we see a number outside the parentheses and we have a bunch of stuff inside the parentheses, that means that we have groups of that inside. So last time I had a 3 outside, so I had 3 groups. This time I have a 5 outside, so I have 5 groups of n plus 3. So I'm going to be separating them into n's and constants again. And since I know I have 5 groups of n, I can just write n 5 times. And I have 5 groups of the constant plus 3, so I can add plus 3 5 times. So now I'm going to combine my like terms. N plus n plus n plus n plus n is 5n. And then 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 plus 3 is going to give me 15. So my final answer is going to be 5n plus 15. And again, that's as far as I can go. N and 15 are different things. They are not like terms, so I cannot combine them. And that brings us to the end of this problem. Let's go ahead and take a look at another one. So in this one, I've got 12 outside the parentheses minus 3y plus 2. And I know that that 12 outside means that I have 12 groups of this. But there's got to be a faster way than writing out negative 3y 12 times. And good news, luckily there is. There's a more efficient way to apply the distributive property, and that more efficient way is to multiply. So this means that we're going to multiply the number outside by each term on the inside. So we're going to take that 12 and we're going to multiply it to the negative 3y. And we're going to take that 12 and multiply it to the positive 2. And when we do that, it's going to be much faster to figure out our answer. Now, good news, we have our calculator. So if we've forgotten our integer rules or multiplication isn't our strong suit, we can go ahead and do that. So we'll type in 12 times negative 3, and that's going to give us negative 36y. And 12 times positive 2 is going to give me positive 24. So my final answer is negative 36y plus 24. And notice I didn't have to do any writing out. I didn't have to write down negative 3y 12 times. This was a much faster and much more efficient way of doing it. Let's take a look at another example. Here we are at example C. In example C, I've got 2 choices here, or 2 problems I have to do. I've got negative 9 outside the f minus 4 on one side, and negative symbol with no number there outside the 5 minus m. So let's start on the left-hand side. We're going to start with that negative 9. And I know now a much faster way than writing out f 9 times is to multiply the negative 9 inside to both numbers, the negative 9 on the outside to both numbers. So negative 9 times f is going to give me negative 9f. And negative 9 times negative 4, because remember I have to keep the sign inside. Remember I got to account for that sign. Negative 9 times negative 4 is going to give me positive 36. So my answer is negative 9f plus 36. Now let's head over to the right-hand side where I see a negative number or a negative sign with no negative number outside. So anytime I see just a negative sign with no number there, I know that stands for negative 1. So I can draw a 1 in there. You don't have to if you can remember it, but it's a good idea right now to do that so that it helps remind you. So then again, I'm going to multiply the negative 1 times the 5 and the negative 1 times the negative n. Remember that sign. It's very important to keep track of that sign. If you lose track of that sign, you're going to end up with the wrong sign in your answer and get the problem incorrect. So now we're going to do negative 1 times positive 5. Negative times a positive is a negative. That's going to give me negative 5. And then negative 1 times negative m, and negative times a negative is going to give me a positive m. And I don't have to write 1m, I can just write m. So my answer is negative 5 plus m. Now let's head on over to our last example. Here we are at example D. In example D, I've got two problems to choose from again, left and right. I'm going to start on the left. Now, although it's out of order, I still have a 3 outside the numbers inside the parentheses. So I'm still going to be distributing, even though the 3 is at the end. That's okay. It still means to distribute. It's still multiplication. You can change the order. We know that from the commutative properties. So I'm going to be taking my 3 and I'm going to be distributing it to the negative 11 and taking my 3 and distributing it to the 6x. When I do that, I can use my calculator. 3 times 6 is going to give me positive 18. Then don't forget the sign in front of that 11, which is a negative. So 3 times negative 11 is going to give me negative 33. So my answer is 18x minus 33. Then on the right side there, I have 1/2 outside the parentheses, 6k minus 16 on the inside. Now, luckily, I have my calculator, and I can multiply fractions in my calculator. I just have to be careful about how I do it. So I have to make sure that if I'm going to multiply by a fraction inside my calculator, that I'm going to put the fraction in the calculator first. So I have to type 1 divided by 2 times whatever I'm multiplying by. And in this case, it's going to be 1 divided by 2 times 6. Then 1 divided by 2 times negative 18. You could also know what half of 6 is and half of negative 16 is, and that would help you. But again, if you need to use your calculator, because it won't always be 1/2 that's your fraction, you need to remember to put the fraction in the calculator first. So 1 divided by 2 times 6 is going to give me 3, and 1 divided by 2 times negative 16 is going to give me negative 8. So my answer is 3k minus 8. That brings us to the end of this video. If you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one.